Hello, everyone. This is Ron Gerber from AngelBeat. I'm so excited to have Arun here from Microsoft. He was one of the best speakers at our recent seminars in Philadelphia and Wilmington, Delaware. He offered great insights around bots. Now, sometimes bots get a bad name. And a lot of people, and this is 2020, think about the presidential campaign and all the robobot callers. That is not a good example of bots. But there are so many other exciting ways that bots can improve customer service, that you can use the same technology platform for helping onboarding employees, for dealing with preliminary help desk inquiries, how you can even use it on various customer service or social media platforms. It's very, very exciting. And the cloud-based computing power of Microsoft, together with its AI capabilities, enable companies to work with Microsoft, take advantage of these services and experts like Arun in making bots possible. So without any further ado, I'm going to have Arun basically deliver on in an online version the same kind of great content he delivered to an audience in Philadelphia that got great reviews. We really appreciate your time. And Arun, without any further ado, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ron. So I'm going to start by going over the data platform. The bot uses two things. It uses the data and the way to process the data and the way to use it intelligently. That's where the cognitive services comes in. So first I'm going to go over the whole Microsoft AI platform, and any of it kind of goes through all those product offering that Microsoft has around data and AI, and any combination of this could be used to make a bot depending on what your eventual use case is. So a typical data workflow has data coming from different sources, like you have your log files, you have IoT and weather data, you have your business data, um, using transactional data, or it could be a NoSQL and unstructured data, images, stuff like that. So the first thing you do to process the data is to ingest it into a platform where you can kind of process it, right? So the first thing is, there are two ways to ingest the data. There is a streaming way. For streaming, we have things like Event Hub, which is our managed platform as a queue, and we have IoT Hub for IoT type of data. And then we have Kafka, which is an application that the open source version of the application that you can run on SD Inside, which is our Hadoop offering. Besides that, you also have a way to ingest data using a batch process. This is where we have an offering called Azure Data Factory. This is our cloud-based ETL tool that uses Spark behind the scene to kind of run it in a batch mode and kind of take data from one place, do some massaging to the data, and ingest it into another data source. Then we have Data Lake, which is our cloud data storage. This is our SDFS as a service. This is our multi-model data store. So you can have things like blob store, just the CSV files, Parquet files, any kind of file that you can put in the storage. From processing side, there are again two kinds of processing. There is a real-time processing, for which we have things like Azure streaming analytics. And then we also have things like Storm that you can run again on SD Inside, which is a Hadoop platform. And then we have Azure Databricks, which is a managed PaaS service for running Spark using Databricks, which is one of the contributors of Spark. And it kind of adds more enterprise level security and performance improvements to Spark that kind of makes the managing of Spark processing and deployment of models a lot easier. Then we have Azure Synapse Analytics, which is our data warehousing and data lake combined. So this is our one-stop solution for analytics, which kind of combines the traditional OLAP type of analytics as well as more modern Hadoop type of analytics, where you can use something like Spark to do a machine learning type of work. Then we have Azure Batch for doing batch processing. On top of that, you would be adding intelligence. So from the intelligence side, we have things called cognitive services, which are our prepackaged uh, machine learning models where you don't write the code, you don't provide the data to train it. Microsoft has already written the code, and Microsoft has trained it on a pre-labeled data set that Microsoft owns. So you just use the service which is available to you as a REST API to solve a particular problem. Some examples would be the Vision API, which can do face detection, it can do object recognition. So you could use it to kind of get insight out of an image. There are text analytics which can look at a bunch of text and do key phrase extraction, do sentiment analysis. Is it good or bad? It can do things like language translation, things like that. So these services can be used, which are pre-packaged services, but then there are people who need to write their own code to meet their compliance requirement. For that, we have a platform called Azure ML, where you can write your own code, you provide it your own data, and it has a DevOps component, so you can kind of create a pipeline to have your machine learning model go through a cycle where it gets the data, the feature engineering happens, you extract the features, build your model, and then you deploy it internally using your own network. So the whole thing happens within your network. It's more secure and everything is under your control. And then we have bot service, which is our, there are two things to bot service. There is a API, an SDK that you use to kind of a code for the bot. And then there is a cloud services that you use to deploy the bot. Then we have Azure Databricks also has the AI components to it. So you can build your own AI, just like we use with Azure ML. With Azure Databricks, there are ways that Azure ML and Azure Databricks kind of work together to kind of take big data and build AI on it. Then we have Azure IoT Edge, which is our edge devices that kind of, which are our sensors or microcontrollers that are, on the site, uh, doing processing on the site. And these are like, it could be your cameras, it could be your sensors that kind of are deployed on your site to do the work. Then on the serving side, once the data has been processed, they go through the Azure Analysis Service, which is our service offering to kind of host reports where it scales in a way that when a lot of users log in, it does not uh, do any kind of server overload. So it kind of gives you the bandwidth to support as many users as you need. Then we have Cosmos DB, which is our one-stop NoSQL platform. It's a multimodal platform. So if you have a NoSQL use case that fits more like MongoDB, or it's more like a graph API that you have like Neo4j, or it's more a table like Cassandra, you don't have to choose a different NoSQL database for your different use case. Cosmos DB, you can choose the API you need, and it kind of a behind the scene uses the right model that is optimized for your use case. Then we have Logic Apps, which is our kind of a no-code platform where you can kind of drag and drop components to build an app without having to write code. Some examples would be like, when this email comes with this kind of a subject, I want this person to be sent a text message, or when files are loaded here, I want them to be processed using this pipeline and loaded here. So these are the kind of apps that you can build using Logic Apps. Then we have Azure Functions, which is kind of the API equivalent of Logic Apps, where it does not have a UI. So you don't get a user interface, you just get an API, and then it's up to you to kind of consume that API in some other user interface. Then you have Azure API management to kind of manage the life cycle of API. On the consumption side, the reports can be consumed by our reporting platform, which is the Power BI. The bot service is what's used to kind of host the bot. So the bot service includes the UI, which is our channel where the bot lives. This is where you interact with the bot, and there is an app service that kind of hosts a REST API that kind of gives the intelligence to the bot. It takes the input from the UI and does the processing and gives back the response to the UI. And then on the marketplace, there are a lot more apps. Then we have for web and mobile apps, there are lots kinds of application platform to host different kind of apps. And all of this, they are layered over a lot of data and governance a tool that are used to kind of make sure that data is secure, your network within which your data lives, that is secured. We have Azure Key Vault, where you can manage your own security keys. And all of this, they have to go through the developer platform. So there are, Azure DevOps for managing your development pipeline. There is Azure Machine Learning Studio to do authoring of machine learning, and there is Visual Studio for writing application code, and all of this also supports all the typical open source machine learning platform like CNTK, TensorFlow, Scikit-learn, Cafe, things like that. And on top of all this, there is also the marketplace, which has apps from third-party vendors like Teradata, Cloudera. All these companies, they have their applications that are already on Azure. So you can kind of, if any of the off-the-shelf Azure solution does not meet your solution, any of the vendor solutions are better fit for your use case, you could deploy any of the vendor solutions into Azure. So coming back to the AI platform, so at a high level, the AI platform involves Azure AI services, which is on one hand, you have cognitive services, which is your pre-packaged machine learning models. Then you have bot service, which is hosting of the bot and your application SDK for the bot. And then you have custom AI using Azure machine learning. All of this run on Azure infrastructure, which is your various data platform, and then you have your hardware choice. You can choose to run all these data services on either CPU, GPU, or FPGA, and you have tools integration using Visual Studio and all the open source platform we talked about. So bot service, like I said, it has the bot builder, which is the SDK. The SDK is your coding platform. It's a framework, kind of like you have ASP.NET for building website. There is a bot framework for building bots. On the platform side, you have things like channel. So a bot lives inside an app, which is called a channel, right? So the channel could be like the Cortana, or it could live inside Bing, it could live in Skype or WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, it could live on a website, which is most typical. Also an example of that later. Within the bot, there is something called adaptive card, which is like a web form embedded inside your bot messaging. There is speech support and payment support. On the intelligence side, since bot is the new app, even though the bot is more intelligent and you interact with it differently, it might feel like it's something, but at the core of it, bot is also an app. So the kind of insight that you are used to for application, the same kind of insight you also get with bot, which is the log analytics, right? So once you're using the bot, you want to know um, when is it on, when is it not available, where are the users coming from, what are the most frequent questions asked. So all those analytics you can get from bot, similar to how you get analytics about your app, right? So on cognitive services side, these are the main categories of cognitive services. With vision, you get a face API where you can look at a face and say, is it a male or female? What's the approximate age? Do they look happy or sad? and you do object recognition. You can tell by looking at the image what it is. On the speech, you have things like uh, language detection, you have speaker recognition, you have speech translation. Um, on the language side, again, you have more of the NLP type of tool where you do text analytics, you do key phrase extraction, and you detect entities within a text, do language translation, or build models specific to a particular culture or a particular business domain. Then there are knowledge and search. Within the knowledge, it's kind of like building a knowledge graph using the data that is provided. What are the entities within the data? How are the entities related? And all of this could be combined with Azure Search, so that you can kind of search in a more intelligent way. So you are not just searching for the data that is indexed, you are also searching on the insight on the data that is extracted using knowledge APIs, right? And then there is lab, which is our innovation center. This is where we create some of our new cognitive services that are not yet available for general use, but they are for specific use case that specific people need. And over time, as the usage for that gets high enough, then those APIs migrate from the labs to the mainstream. So this is a typical structure of what a bot architecture looks like in an enterprise. So at the center of it, you have the bot, and the bot can use a lot of cognitive services. So it can use the Q&A maker, which is a way to kind of get your company FAQ and build a bot that kind of answers your, frequently asked questions, right? You can use Lewis for doing language analysis. There is text analytics. It can combine all of these cognitive services to do the intelligent part of the work. And then it can also connect to your existing traditional workflow. Like if you have a case management tool, or you have your data traditional database, you have other web services. Bot, just like any other application, can tap into all of these to kind of do operation. So, a typical use case is like, once the bot is getting input from the data, you want a case to be entered in Dynamics, for example, to, say that, this person wanted this, and this is how far we got using the bot. Or it should have the capability to, after it loads the case, at a certain point, the bot can no longer handle what the user is asking. It should be able to transfer to a live agent in a seamless way, so that the live agent can take up from where the bot left. And the bot, just like any other application, would create logs to know what was happening behind the scene, both from a technical side and on a business operations side. And all of this would be available as a report on Power BI. So I'm going to show an example of a bot like that. So this is an insurance website that has a bot that you can talk to create a new car insurance. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to assume that um, there is this person who already has car insurance, and the insurance company already knows about the person, but that person has now bought a new car, and he's calling the insurance company to kind of get insurance for his new car. But the bot is going to ask all the questions that a typically an insurance agent asks, and to give an insurance quote. So it's asking, hi, how can I help you today? I'm going to try and answer in a different language, in this Spanish. So the fact that I'm replying in Spanish, the bot understood that I want to speak Spanish. It changed the language to Spanish. I'm going to switch back to English. Then the bot again speaks in English. So I'll say, I need insurance. And then this is an example of an adaptive card. So where instead of a bot asking me to enter a free text, it's giving me an option to look at all the types of insurance they have and help me pick one. So I'm going to say, I want automotive insurance. So it says, okay, I can help you with new automotive policy. Are you an existing customer? I'll say yes. Okay, so let me retrieve your information. What's your full name? I'll say Lance Olson. Okay, what is your personal identification number? I'll give you an ID. One moment. It's trying to now pull up the information from Dynamics. Okay, so it has now found me in the Dynamics system. And so there was a picture of me there. So it pulled up the picture and the picture has been updated. And based on my profile, it says that, well, I see that you have a daughter who is turning 18. Do you want to include her in the policy? I'll say yes. Now, what kind of car is it? I'll say it's a sedan. What is the make of the car you want to insure? I'll say Acura. What is the model? I'll say RDX. What is the year? Let's say 2017. Since that's the highest available. Do you have a photo of the car? I'll say yes. Now it's asking me to upload the photo. So I'm going to trick the bot and I'm going to say, I'm going to enter this picture. Okay, so let's see what it says. That does not look like a car. It looks more like a brown and white dog playing with frisbee. Now notice there is no frisbee in the image, but looking at the pose of the dog, it just says that maybe the dog is playing frisbee. So this is an example of the Vision API working inside the bot to kind of give description of what the image is. So I'm going to upload another image again. This time I'm going to pick a different car. So let's see what it says. That doesn't look like a sedan. So now looking at the image, it recognizes that it is a car, but it's not a sedan, it's a sports car. Do you want to use this picture? So it's still giving me the option to override what I said. I'll say no. Then again, it's asking me to upload. So I'll say this time I'll pick the right car. That looks great, nice purchase. So now the bot is happy with the image. It meets all the criteria, everything that I said. That's all the information I need. Let me generate an estimate for you. Okay, so it's giving me a quote that it will be 316.25 per month. That includes coverage. What do you think? If this sounds good, we can start the coverage now. At this point, I'll say no, that is too expensive. So now I understand we really want to make it work. Let me see if your customer. So now it's like the bot is realizing the customer is not happy, and beyond this point, the bot can't really handle because bot cannot do negotiation. So now the bot has transferred me to a live agent who is going to take it from here. So the live agent will have access to everything that has happened so far, and the live agent will look at it in Dynamics, and the live agent already knows that I got this 27 Acura RDX. So the live agent is starting the conversation from there. Okay. So this is an example of a real life bot that you could be deploying in your organization. Now, another example I'm going to show you is recently the government released a lot of the documents related to the JFK assassination, and one of our developer used those files to kind of create an Azure search to kind of demonstrate what the cognitive search capabilities within Azure Search can provide. So in the JFK assassination, the key person was Lee Harvey Oswald. So I'm just going to search for Oswald, and notice it pulled up a lot of documents. So here it says it's Oswald, and that's highlighted. And you can see that it's a typed document that was scanned. So it did an OCR on that document to find the word. And also there was a handwritten document. So it was able to recognize the handwritten document also, and it highlighted Oswald. And then it also tagged a picture of Oswald, because in the picture the name was photo underscore Oswald. Okay, and if you look at the picture, it says in the metadata that Lee Harvey was posing for a camera. So this is a text that was pulled from the Cognitive Service API. This is not what was entered in the image. Okay, so going back to this, so now notice there is also highlighted the GP floor. Okay, so GP floor is a CIA cryptonym for Lee Harvey Oswald. So using the knowledge graph, it was able to link GP floor to Oswald, and now it's highlighting GP floor when I'm searching for Oswald. So you can see the knowledge graph here that, this is where by looking at all the data, it kind of built a graph of, what are the entities and how they are related. Now you can kind of see that, okay, there is Oswald. He at some point went to Dallas. There is Sylvia Duran, who was one of the agent in Mexico who helped escape him. So, so you can kind of do a more thorough investigation using AI as an assistant, that AI has kind of done part of the work for you, right? So this is an example of what you can do. Even though this kind of uses the JFK document, you can imagine this being used in the insurance world to do insurance investigation, or to do kind of a trading risk analysis, stuff like that. Okay, so with that, I'm going to conclude. uh, uh, I don't know if we can do questionnaire here.
Well, I think this is really fascinating, Arun. I mean, there's so much going on out there, so many different applications for people to use AI and bots and AI-powered capabilities and data analytics. One of the other things that I want to point out is don't be overwhelmed by all this complexities, functionalities. The great thing about Microsoft, and as they offer these services, every organization take advantage of it. If you've got a whole team of developers, you're a Fortune 100 company, you can do a lot of this autonomously. But if you're a small company, Microsoft has great tools where you don't need to be a very sophisticated programmer. If you're reasonably skilled at configuring your iPhone, you can probably configure a pretty darn powerful bot application, because Microsoft is making it so easy for you. Is that a good thing to emphasize, Arun, that there's different flavors out there, and Microsoft has basically leveled the playing field by offering this as a cloud service, so almost any organization, even relatively small firms like AngelBeat, can make this happen?
Yes, I mean, the cloud services now, developers have their own account. If you have a Visual Studio account, you get $200 credit every month. So, developers are doing this to kind of build their own app. Like I myself do this to kind of build my own demo. So, of course, any organization can do that. And, if you are a small business, there is a special group that handles only small business, and they provide you small business tools on top of what you get from Azure. So definitely this is meant to be for everybody. And if the new CEO of Satya Nadella has a new mission for Microsoft, that this is to empower every person and every organization in the world. So this is a way to democratize and to give technology in the hands of everybody, so everybody feels empowered. That's the mission of Microsoft.
Well, I think this is interesting. We like to make sure that we at AngelBeat, whether through our live events or through our online activities, are providing people not so much with bleeding edge topics, but leading edge, if not current topics that you need to pursue, that you need to evaluate as your organization is embarking on its journey for digital transformation, cloud adoption, deploying automation tools like bots and cognitive services that are going to make your employer more successful, and it's also going to be beneficial because it's going to make you more successful in your personal career. Jobs such as dealing with Microsoft Patch Tuesdays, that's not exactly the best career path because so much of the patching cannot be done automated. But if you have skills and insights in how you can configure and architect bots, how you can work with your line of business colleagues, if you work in traditional areas of technology, then you're going to be someone who's going to be a star within your employer and in high demand. Arun, did you have anything else you'd like to add? I think this was great informative content. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you for letting me speak.
Excellent. Well, I will look forward to seeing individuals at a live AngelBeat event in the hopeful near future. But in the meantime, please continue to rely upon us for great insights through online training, through these on-demand webinars. You can always go to angelbeat.com, contact me if you've got any questions. As Arun was alluding to, there are a whole slew of different groups within Microsoft, such as the small business team. There's an array of Microsoft partners literally throughout the world who help configure this, and you could use AngelBeat as a central point of contact to make sure that we work with experts like Arun to funnel your request to the right group. So without any further ado, I'm going to end the webinar. Thank all of you very much, and I especially want to thank Arun for delivering this meaningful information. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you for everyone for attending.